Hey, you guys. Let's hope I can figure out where we left off. So, as we're reading this, okay, I see where we are. As we're reading this, just to continue reminding you a million times, please remember that you are supposed to be making connections, okay? You don't have to do a 3, 2, 1 here. And you don't have to do a journal entry. I want you to pay attention, and I want you to see where you can connect it. And if you're watching the video with me, I'm making those connections. Maybe not all of them, but I'm making connections for you. All right, let's see if I can get this read before my grandson comes back upstairs to bug me. Listen, people, we're dying, okay? We need help badly, and we're not allowed to send him to daycare because I need to be under the strictest precautions. So nobody can come in the house and nobody can go out. But we're dying. We need help. Okay, I'm back. Later, in his testimony, Jordan described the police's involvement in the crimes. We left and drove our Highway 19 back toward Meridian. At the time, there was a red car ahead of us, and that's what we did, a red Chevrolet. There was some more men in it. We came back out of the outskirts of Philadelphia. The red car pulled over beside a highway patrol car, and we pulled up behind it. The man driving the red car got out and said something to the patrol car, and he walked back to our car and said, "Never mind. They will stop. I think it's they will be stopped by the deputy sheriff. These men are not going to stop them." About that time, the deputy's car came by, said something to the man in the red car and the deputy's car, and we took off to follow them. Well, we were following the red car as we were told to do. We got on down the highway a good ways. The car broke down. Evidently, it broke down. It stopped beside the road. We stopped behind it. Posey told us to come on and go ahead, that it would be stopped anyway by the sheriff, the deputy sheriff, and we would follow them. I'm hating my life right now. Shut up! And now I have to find where I am. Well, we were following the red cars we were told to do. We got on down the highway a good ways. The car broke down. I already read all this, but I keep getting distracted. Okay, so sorry. He got in the car with us and left this young man there to try and fix his car. We went on toward Meridian from Philadelphia to a cutoff highway. I don't know which number it is, toward Union. And we were traveling at a pretty high rate of speed. And about that time, we caught the tail end of the deputy's car ahead of us. We saw a little wagon in front of him, which he had pulled over to the side of the road. This, of course, was the core station wagon. So this is, the reason why this is so difficult to read is because we are actually reading exactly what somebody has said. And so proper grammar may not be happening during this because the guy's sitting on the stand. And so whatever the person hears is exactly what they have to write. And they're not allowed to fix any, okay? So if words are missed, that's sort of why it doesn't make sense. All right. So basically what's happening is one of the cars broke down, and so they were still following the car that the three boys were driving, the station wagon. And so when the car broke down, they got into another car and they left somebody at that car to work on trying to fix that car. All right. All right. So Jordan continued with testimony about the grim details of the trio's final minutes. That's the three boys, Schwerner, Cheney, and Goodman. We pulled up behind him. He got out and went up and told the three men that were in the car to get out. They got in the back of his car, and Posey told Arledge to get in their car and follow them, and we turned and went back. I heard a thump, like the deputy was rushing them to get in there, or where he hit one of them, or the car, or what. But I did hear a thump. We turned left on Highway 19 all the way to, about 34 miles to this other cutoff road, which wasn't a paved highway. And then they said somebody had better stay here and watch in case anything happens till the other car comes. We turned left off the highway onto a graded clay road. I got out of the car to watch and see if anything was happening, and the other cars proceeded on up the road. Well, I hear a car door slamming and some loud talking. I couldn't understand or distinguish anybody's voice or anything, and then I heard several shots. Walked up the road toward where the noise came from. Just a bunch of men milling and standing around that had been in the 2 cars ahead of us, and someone said, "Better pick up these shells." I hollered, "What do you want me to do?" We put the bodies through the back window of the truck lid of their wagon. I can explain that in a minute. At that time, the highway deputy or the deputy sheriff's car turned around and went back toward Highway 19. Posey said, "Just follow me. I know where we're going." So, okay, they're in a station wagon. So, I don't know. Think about the movie Vacation. That's a station wagon. So, we didn't have SUVs back then. So, the back of the station wagon, the seat goes down. So, you have lots of room. And there's usually a window. And you can roll the window down. And then you can pull the back down. So basically what they did was the window was down and they just slid the bodies through the back of the car. That's all they're talking about here. Finally, Jordan gave his version of the burial of the bodies. We went through a barbed wire fence and was there. I opened the back of the station wagon, took the boys out, and took them down in this hollow. Posey told us to go back up the road and listen out that the operator was not there yet. So Jim Snowden and I walked back up the road to wait. Then at that time, we thought we heard something coming through the woods, but it was nothing but a cow. And about that time, he said Doyle and Raymond Sharp were going to find the bulldozer operator because he wasn't there when we got there, so they left to go get him. Well, they came back in a different way. They did not come back in by us at that time, and we heard someone whistle across the way, and Snowden said, "I'll go see who it is." And he walked down the road just a little ways, came back, and said, "It must be the operator." And about that time, we heard the bulldozer crank up. After they were buried, the boys, we got back in the car, and then we were going to put the license plate back on it, which had been taken off of Doyle Barnett's car. Posey told us we could go back to this place and put the license plate back on the car, and Sharp knew there was to come around the road and that he would wait there and take the operator back. He said the station wagon, don't worry about it, would be taken to Alabama and burned. He said Herman will take it to Alabama is all I know. Doer also read the jury Barnett's recanted confession, and the stories those 2 men told were so similar in the details that it seemed impossible they could be lying. Though the defense would put up a few suspicious arguments based primarily on character witnesses and questionable alibis, Doer knew that the testimony was on his side. The only question was whether the jury would actually convict their own of killing 3 despised outsiders. In his final summation, he reminded them, members of the jury, this is an important case. It is important to the government, it is important to the defendants, but most important, it's important to the state of Mississippi. What I say, what the other lawyers say here today, what the court says about the law will soon be forgotten. But what you 12 people do here today will long be remembered. These defendants will stand before you on the record in this case, and they will beg for you for indulgence. In effect, they will say, as Gloucester said, as he stood over the body of his slain king, "Say I slew him not." The queen replied, "Then say they were not slain, but they are dead. If you find these men are not guilty of this conspiracy, it would be as true to say that there was no nighttime release from jail by Cecil Price. There were no white knights. There were no young men dead. There was no murder. If you find these men are not guilty, you will declare the law of Neshoba County to be the law of the state of Mississippi." The jury received the case at 4:24 on October 18th, and they deliberated for 3 hours before retiring for the night. The next day, they returned to the courtroom and informed the judge that they were deadlocked. That means they couldn't come up with a unanimous decision. Cox sent them back to the jury room with a stern reminder that trials were expensive and that they had a responsibility to make a decision. The jury obeyed him and returned the next morning to announce their decision. They found the following men guilty: Cecil Ray Price, Jimmy Arledge, Sam Bowers, Wayne Roberts, Jimmy Snowden, Billy Wayne Posey, and Horace Doyle Barnett. They remained deadlocked about Killen, Sharp, and Ethel Glenn Barnett. They acquitted everyone else, including Rainey, Burridge, and Atkin. With that, Cox sentenced Robert and Bowers to 10 years each, and the others involved to shorter sentences of either 5 or 3 years. He later said, "They killed one Jew and a white man. I gave them all I thought they deserved." Though these were hardly just sentences in a hang-em-high state like Mississippi, Doer was still pleased with the results. To have the jury return the verdict was a great thing. The jury paid attention. They were serious people. They were applying the beyond a reasonable doubt standard very strictly. The trial helped Mississippi get beyond the caste system. Up to that time, no white person in the state had ever been convicted for violence against a black. That's important to remember. After the trial, the good people of Mississippi became more confident that they could move away from their past. The government decided not to retry Killen, Sharp, and Barnett, as it was thought that the convictions were the best that could be gotten in Mississippi at the time. As a result, Killen, arguably the man most responsible for the deaths, remained free for the next 45 years. As the case was going, Saturday Evening Post captured the essence of what brought about the crimes in the first place. Deep angers and frustrations now motivate the Klansman. He is rebelling against his own ignorance. Ignorance that restricts him to the hard and poorly paid jobs that are becoming scarcer every day. He is angered by the knowledge that the world is passing by, that he is sinking lower and lower in the social order. The Negro is his scapegoat, for he knows that so long as the Negro can be kept in his place, there will be somebody on the social and economic scale who is lower than he. In the cavern, in his robes, repeating the ancient ritual, he finds the status that is denied him on the outside. Fortunately, those kinds of attitudes changed over the ensuing decades, and after years of calls for the reopening of the Mississippi burning case and retrying Killen, the 80-year-old segregationist was arrested in 2004 on 3 counts of murder. In 2005, Edgar Ray Killen was convicted on 3 counts of manslaughter and sentenced to 60 years in prison. He is still serving his sentence at the Mississippi State Penitentiary in Parcham. To date, he is dead. He died in jail, I think, 2 years ago. So, thank you for reading the book. Make your connections with Emmett Till, Ghost of Mississippi, and Miss Jane Pittman. I had to go to a faculty meeting. Bye, you guys.